If we all have the same 24 hours in a day, what is it that makes some people ultra productive while others stressed out, overwhelmed, and always playing catch up? Well, that's what this video is all about, and I'm sharing my top 10 productivity tips and hacks to help you get more done in less time. Let's get to it. Hey there, my name is Adam Erhart, Modern Marketing Strategist, and welcome to the Modern Marketing Show, where we help you make marketing that matters. So if you're interested in learning about the latest and greatest marketing strategies, tools, tips, tricks, and tactics, well, you may want to consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Seeing as the topic of this video is how to be ultra productive, we don't have a lot of time to waste with a fancy lead up, fun stories, or teasers to get you to stick around all the way to the end. So let's just dive right into the meat and potatoes with tip number 1, the magic question. Now, the reason we're starting with tip number 1 being the magic question is because, in my opinion, this is one of the most powerful productivity tips available today and one that is so rarely talked about and leverages the incredible power of your subconscious mind to help you figure out answers that you may not have been able to reach to just by thinking alone. So here's how the magic question works. The next time you've got a goal or a project or something you're trying to get completed in, say, the next 7 days, 30 days, even a year, well, all you have to do is ask yourself, how could I get this done in a quarter of the time? That's it. Then you let the power of your subconscious mind go to work and start to carve out some really good answers for you. Now, this is going to be a bit of a brainstorming session, so make sure you've got a pen and paper handy and don't self-edit. What I mean here is write down absolutely everything that your subconscious mind comes up with and get it out on paper. Now, here's the thing. What you're going to find is that most of the ideas you come up with are pretty terrible, not usable at all. But there's going to be a few absolute gems and nuggets hidden in there that you're going to be able to use and leverage. Now, depending on the size and scope of the project, you may not be able to get it down to a quarter of the time, but I can almost guarantee you're going to be able to carve off 10%, 20%, maybe even 50% of the time you thought it was going to take to complete the project simply by finding new and creative ways of getting it done. Using the magic question allows you to turn 1-year goals into 90-day goals, and 90-day goals into 30-day goals, 30-day goals into maybe even 1-week goals. And just by deploying this one single strategy, you're going to find you become amazingly more productive. And that's going to lead us perfectly into tip number 2 to 80-20 everything. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto's principle, it essentially just says that not everything matters equally, meaning some things are significantly more important than other things, and the ratio is typically around 80-20, meaning you're going to get 80% of your results from only 20% of your efforts. Therefore, your goal to becoming ultra productive is to find those 20% of efforts that are really going to lead to those 80% results and abandon everything else. If you've never done this before, I can appreciate it might be a pretty hard concept to wrap your head around. So the best way to start deploying this strategy inside your life and business is really just to practice. And by that, what I mean is start writing down all of the things you need to do and then try to assign them a different value in order of their importance. What you're going to find is that typically around 20% of the things are going to be responsible for most of the success, and therefore you're going to want to prioritize them and get them done first. Now, this is a strategy I highly recommend deploying, and you're going to find some huge crossover into all other areas of your life. So if you're looking for a little more guidance on the subject, 2 books I recommend are the 80-20 Principle and The One Thing. You can check them out now, and I'll make sure to link them up in the descriptions below. Tip number 3 is that you need to have a goal. Now, stick with me here because I fully understand that this is one of the most generic and most often talked about pieces of personal development literature ever, right? Everybody's talking to you about the importance of having goals and all the different strategies of setting goals and should you have outcome goals or process goals and goals. I get it. But the reason it's so often talked about is because it is that important, especially in the realm of productivity, where you're really trying to decide on what the best actions are to get you to your end result. Obviously, to get to your end result, you need to know what your end result is. Now, from a productivity standpoint, an important factor of being more productive is having more energy and essentially more drive and more pull towards your goal. This is why having a goal that really resonates with you on an emotional level is going to be a lot more compelling and get you out of bed in the morning and really working towards it. On understanding the importance of goals and really figuring out the why behind it, I recommend checking out Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, which again, I'll make sure to link up in the descriptions below. Also, for more great information on goal setting, I recommend checking out Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, and Darren Hardy, who all have a ton of really good and valuable tips to help get you there. Just know that one of the major factors in doubling your productivity and becoming ultra productive is really having a strong and compelling reason and something to work towards, known as a goal. The next tip to becoming ultra productive is to do deep work. And this one has had a significant and profound and meaningful impact on my level of productivity, and I know that it can do the same for you. You see, one of the biggest hindrances and biggest obstacles that you're going to face in your quest to becoming ultra productive is going to be distractions and interruptions. And there's no arguing that we're more distracted and more interrupted today than ever before. And it's only getting worse. Whether we're talking about text messages coming through, or pings on your phone, or notifications on your computer, or phone calls, or social media pop-ups, or whatever else, the interruptions really never end. Now, the problem with all these distractions and interruptions is kind of obvious. They take your mind off the task at hand, and they force you to kind of recalibrate your brain in order to get refocused and back on the task you were trying to do in the first place. The solution here is to do what author Cal Newport calls deep work, and essentially make yourself unavailable to the outside world so you can focus exclusively and solely on the task at hand, or your most important task, thing you want to get done. I've found the best time personally to do deep work is first thing in the morning, and I make sure I've always got at least 2 hours a day to focus on content creation or new projects or things that really take a lot of my time and energy. Now, I'm not saying you need to do it first thing in the morning. Find a time that works for you. Just make sure that you schedule it into your calendar and make this time non-negotiable. Also, like the other books, I'll make sure to link up Deep Work in the descriptions below as well, so you can check that out. It's a really good read. And that moves us nicely into tip number 5, to obey Parkinson's law. Now, Parkinson's law states that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. Putting it a little more basically, if you give yourself an hour to complete a task, you're probably going to get it done within the hour. Same as if you have a week to complete a project, it's probably going to take you the week. Same for a month, same for a year, same for whatever time period you set. Now, the strategy to using Parkinson's law in your favor is essentially to limit the amount of time that you have available for a task. Meaning that, let's say you've got a proposal to write and you think it's going to take you 4 hours. Well, schedule in 3 hours, or maybe get really aggressive and only schedule in 2 hours. And what I think you'll find is you're actually able to get it done, and pretty well. Now, if you don't have perfectionist tendencies, you're going to find that Parkinson's law is an absolute game changer in getting way more done in way less time. On the other hand, if you are a perfectionist, you may need to accept that 80% is the new perfect. Especially if you are a perfectionist, your 80% is probably someone's 100% anyways. And remember the old saying, done is better than perfect. So get it done. Tip number 6 is to schedule everything. And as the famous quote by Benjamin Franklin goes, those who fail to plan to fail. And he was pretty spot on. You see, one of the major differences between successful and ultra successful people isn't just that they plan everything, it's that they schedule everything and assign time in their calendar, ensuring that their most important tasks, identified in the 80-20 rule, well, those most important tasks get done and get done first. You see, it's all too easy to just have a long and never-ending to-do list that always has new things added to it. But if you take the time to prioritize those and then start scheduling them directly into your calendar, you're going to find that you get your most important tasks completed and get them done a lot earlier. Tip number 7 is to do, delegate, or delete. And I'm talking about pretty much everything in your life, whether we're talking about business or personal. Everything that comes across your plate should either be put into one of 3 categories. You should either do it, delegate it, or delete it. Let's talk about each one. First is the do pile. Now, these are the things that you should do, and if they're going to take less than 5 minutes, maybe get them done right away. Otherwise, you've got to decide what the most important tasks for you are, kind of that operate in your zone of genius or unique specialty, and make sure to schedule and calendar them. Next, of course, we have the delegate pile, and this is where you're going to want to outsource it, either to a freelancer, a contractor, someone on your team, an employee, maybe even a friend or a partner who can help you out in an area that you either may be too busy for or isn't your area of specialty. And lastly, we have my favorite, the deleted pile, because as we've already discussed in the 80-20 rule, well, not everything is created equal. Some things are simply more important to do, meaning once you've identified those 20% of tasks that are really important and must get done, either by you, by doing it, or by someone else by delegating it, well, the rest might just be able to be deleted. The key, of course, to all of this is knowing your goal and where you want to end up so you can make sure that you're making the right decision for what needs to get done, delegated, or deleted. Tip number 8 is wake up early or stay up late. The choice is up to you, just make sure you're consistent. You see, there's a few magical hours both at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day where most normal people are asleep, and people like you and me, the ultra productive and always aspiring for more people, well, we can stay awake and get way more done because there are going to be less interruptions and simply less going on in the world that's going to detract you from your main goal. Now, a key warning here is you don't want to overly sacrifice sleep and be super aggressive with your schedule, whittling it down to 5 or 4 or even less hours of sleep a night. You're simply not going to be able to be productive on that kind of sleep schedule, certainly not long term. But if instead of watching TV late at night, you can either get some extra work done or go to sleep early so you can wake up even earlier in the morning, well, you're going to find these magical hours both early morning and late at night. Everybody else is asleep and you're going to be able to get a ton of stuff done. The key is finding the right time for you, whether you're a morning person or a night owl. And a great book I recommend here, if you're not sure, or how to optimize and structure your day, is The Power of When. Once again, I'll make sure to link it up in the description below. Tip number 9 is that everything is either a hell yes or a no. There is no middle ground. Now, this was an especially tough pill to swallow for a former people pleaser like myself. Essentially, my former people-pleasing habits had me saying yes to pretty much everything, and I was overextended, overwhelmed, and pretty much always stressed out, and never really able to focus on the few things that actually mattered to me, my family, and my business. Not a good way to live. You see, by saying yes to something, you're automatically saying no to something else, whether you intend to or not, because you're filling your time up that could be used with something that may be a little more meaningful or impactful on your life. The solution that a mentor proposed to me was that everything was either a hell yes, meaning that it lit me up, got me excited, and was something I was really passionate about, or it was a no. The key here is to never just react impulsively with, yes, sure, we can meet for coffee, or you can pick my brain, or we can have that meeting, or let's go for lunch. Rather, one of my favorite lines is, let me get back to you. This gives me time to think and also to check my calendar to make sure that I'm not overbooking myself or really moving in a direction that isn't in line with the goals and what I'm trying to achieve. Now, an important note here is that if you're just getting started in your career, you're going to need to make a few sacrifices, meaning not everything's going to be a hell yes for you, certainly not off the bat. So you're going to have to weigh things in order of importance, but again, that's where that 80-20 rule comes in. Tip number 10 is modeling, and I'm not talking about modeling in the traditional fashion sense of the word, but rather in the way that looking at what other successful individuals are doing and then leveraging their strategies and their ideas and how they're setting up their days into your life. The way that I do this, and the way that I've done this for decades now, is I take a look at what the top performers in pretty much any industry are doing, and I see how they structure their days, how they structure their mornings and their evenings, their work, their personal life, their fitness, their nutrition, pretty much everything that goes into being more productive. And then I extract the details that I think would be most relevant and valuable to me. What this usually means is trying on a few different strategies or tactics for a few different weeks or maybe even months, and then sticking with the ones that are delivering returns, scrapping the others. The beauty of modeling is that I've been able to adopt many of the habits and characteristics and attitudes that some of the top performers have and implemented them into my own life, and they've delivered amazing returns and made me significantly more productive. They also cut years off your learning curve because rather than trial and error and trying to mishmash a whole bunch of different strategies together, you're able to figure out what the best are doing and then use those exact strategies. And typically what we find is similar strategies produce similar results. So find someone that you admire or aspire to be like and do what they do. Now, if you've never heard of modeling before and you want a little more detail, well, two people I recommend checking out are Tim Ferriss and Tony Robbins. So I'll make sure to link up some of their stuff in the descriptions below so you can get a better handle on modeling and how it might serve you in your life. Alright, so thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, make sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment in the comment section below, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to check out the 2 videos I've got linked up right here on the screen, which are going to give you even more marketing strategies, tools, tips, tricks, and tactics to really help take your business and your marketing to the next level and way beyond that. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time on The Modern Marketing Show.